morning, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Columbus Day. My name is Timothy Sakosha, and on behalf of my fellow members of the Board of Directors of the National Christopher Columbus Association and our partners at the National Park Service and U.S. Department of Interior, I wish to welcome each of you to the 110th anniversary of the dedication of this memorial to the great navigator and explorer Christopher Columbus. We're pleased to have with us this morning a quintet of musicians from the U.S. Marine Band, the President's Own. Thank you. As we gather, let us begin with a patriotic tribute to the United States, as well as two countries central to Columbus's life, Italy and Spain. Our procession of honor this morning will include the Columbus Expeditionary Banner, presented by Michael Ippolito from the Knights of Columbus Council at Catholic University of America, presenting the flags of Italy and Spain, members of the Knights of Columbus Calvert Province, 4th degree, and members of the Honor America Corps, representing the 27 flags of the United States, and presenting the flag of the United States as a color guard of the Military District of Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the colors and remain standing until their retirement. Present the colors. Please remain standing for the national anthems of Italy, Spain, and the United States. As each country's national anthem is played by the Marine Quintet, the respective flag will be presented. Honor Guard, retire the colors. And finally, please remain standing for our invocation. As we gather this morning, we do so absent a member of our NCCA family. Colonel Tom Hogan was past president of the National Christopher Columbus Association and a longtime board member. Tom entered his eternal reward this past November, just about a month after we last gathered at this ceremony that was so close to his heart. As we prepare for our invocation this morning, we do so remembering Tom's life and witness to service. Please now welcome to the podium for the invocation NCCA board member Julius Jackson. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the prayer today is in part inspired by a hymn tied to the souls of the naval service. You may know this hymn as the naval hymn or Eternal Father Strong to Save. Let us pray. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep, we bless and magnify thy glorious name for this day. We gather today to commemorate and reflect upon the old world meeting the new world, one of the most significant encounters between cultures in all of human history. And we beseech thee, give us grace to grow in wisdom, charity, humility, and benevolence. May we always remember that all are equal in thy sight, and at the end of all the ages, the only thing that will matter is how well we loved one another. This we ask in thy most precious and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Please be seated. Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the dais, Ladies and gentlemen, I am once again happy to welcome each of you today to join with us in celebrating the 530th anniversary of the discovery of the Americas by Christopher Columbus. This is the 110th annual ceremony celebrating the achievements of the great navigator and explorer here in Washington, D.C., in front of this historic statue. The first Columbus Day celebration took place in 1792, when New York's Columbian Order held an event to commemorate the 300th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's historic landing. President Benjamin Harrison instituted the first Columbus Day in 1891 to honor the contributions of those who had immigrated to this country and those native peoples who have called it home for millennia. In 1937, President Franklin Roosevelt declared Columbus Day a national holiday, and in 1968, the U.S. Congress codified the federal holiday as the second Monday in October. Following the 400th anniversary celebrating Columbus's achievements, an effort was launched by the Knights of Columbus here in Washington to establish a monument in the nation's capital to the great navigator. The dedication of this monument took place on June 8, 1912, by President William Howard Taft, and it was followed by a 3-day celebration attended by nearly 115,000 people. Fast forward to today, it is a great honor of the National Christopher Columbus Association to join with our partners at the National Park Service to commemorate the accomplishments of Columbus and the ensuing Columbian Exchange that heralded in a new era of the Western world. In that spirit, it is now my pleasure to introduce the President of the National Christopher Columbus Association, Mr. James P. McCusker, to offer remarks and reflections on this special holiday. Mr. McCusker.
Thank you, Tim. Distinguished members of the dais, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for coming out today on this beautiful day to celebrate the great navigator, Christopher Columbus. We have a great program put together for you this afternoon. Starting off with, and we're very delighted and honored to have the ambassador from Italy and the ambassador from Spain join us with their remarks. And also, we have our award winner with us, and he's going to read about his essay for the winner of the essay contest. So we're very happy to him, and his family is here. So we'd like for you to sit back, relax, enjoy the program. And again, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, JP. As JP said, we are proud to have with us representatives of those countries central to Columbus's life and exploration. First, representing the country which gave the world Christopher Columbus and from which my ancestors came to this country, I'm honored to present for her remarks Her Excellency Mariangela Zappia, of the Ambassador of the Republic of Italy to the United States of America. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Timothy. Dear President McCusker, Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Spain, Honorable Anita McBride, representative of the National Christopher Columbus Association, of the National Italian American Foundation, and of the Italian American organizations, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. What a beautiful day, and I'm really honored in this beautiful day to represent Italy on the occasion of the 530th anniversary of the endeavor that greatly changed the world and history. Thanks to the vision and courage of an extraordinary Italian, Cristoforo Colombo, 1492 became a fundamental watershed, marking the transition to the modern era and contributing to the founding of America. Columbus didn't actually discover a continent, since, of course, it was already inhabited by the Native Americans, indigenous people who contributed to shape this nation. However, Columbus, for sure, opened a route, a portal to a far unknown world that changed both continents in a profound way. Columbus is a symbol of the identity and successful integration of the large Italian-American community. As was recognized by President Biden in his proclamation, the story of Columbus' journey remains a source of pride for Italian-Americans. Celebrating Columbus Day means for them to keep tight the links to their Italian roots and heritage. The presidential proclamation fully captures the spirit of today's celebration, focusing on the incredibly important contribution of the Italian community to the development, prosperity, and vitality of the United States, and to the further promotion of the strong friendship between our countries. The relationship between Italy and the United States is nurtured first and foremost by human bonds and people-to-people relations. Our alliance and friendship are grounded on shared values and principles: freedom, democracy, civil and human rights. The presidential proclamation also recognizes that the institution of the Columbus Day goes far beyond the importance of the figure of the explorer, as it was decided by President Harrison in 1892 after the lynching of 11 Italians in the New Orleans in 1891. It therefore marked the beginning of a new era for the Italian community in the United States and for the extraordinary history of its integration into the American society. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the important role played by the Italian-American community by organizing an impressive number of celebrations and events all over the country in order to preserve Columbus' legacy as a fundamental bound to their roots, both for Columbus Day and for the Italian and Italian-American Heritage Month proclaimed by the Congress. And this is exactly what we are celebrating today: an Italian who put his courage and his vision in an endeavor that helped change the world forever and that united two continents, the old world and the new world, building a transatlantic bridge that today more than ever, as we speak, is at the core of our effort to defend freedom and democracy. I thank you very much for being here today. Thank you.
Grazie, Your Excellency. Accompanying the ambassador this morning, our First Consul Michela Carboniero, Major General Mauricio Cantiello, Lieutenant Gianluca Bianchini, and Chief Sergeant Cristiano Valuti. Thank you for being here. Next, representing the country that gave Columbus the resources to fulfill his vision, I'm honored to present for his remarks His Excellency Santiago Cabanas, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Spain to the United States. Your Excellency.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for being with us here today. Mr. James McCusker, President of the National Christopher Columbus Association, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Italy, my dear colleague, Mariangela Zappia, representatives of the Knights of Columbus, the Honorable Anita McBride, representatives of the armed forces of Spain and Italy, and also Mr. John Hill, this year's essay contest winner, dear friends, all of you, of Christopher Columbus. As Ambassador of Spain to the US, I'm honored to be here today to commemorate Columbus Day, a day in which US, Spain, and Latin America come together to commemorate the arrival of Christopher Columbus to an island called Guanahani, which resulted in the encounter of two worlds that had extraordinary consequences in history. It marked the beginning of a new era for the two continents, Europe and America, and for their peoples. An era characterized by a strong human and cultural exchange, commercial ties, and political connections. In a time of uncertainty, I would like to take this opportunity to vindicate Columbus' legacy as it has paved the way for a common heritage between Europe and the Americas, based, as the Ambassador of Italy has said, on common principles and values like freedom, equality, the rule of law, that are now put into questions in many parts of the world. More than 5 centuries later, we can acknowledge the richness of this fusion, with special emphasis in the United States, where Hispanics have gained relevance, be in politics, economy, or culture. almost 20% of the US population is Hispanic. More than 60 million people speak Spanish. And as part of our efforts in promoting the Spanish language and the Spanish culture, I would like to confirm that Her Majesty the Queen of Spain will inaugurate the new Cervantes Institute in Los Angeles in December of this year. It is worth also mentioning that Columbus himself explored part of the United States territory. On his second trip to the New World in 1493, he landed on the coast of Puerto Rico, and the island soon became an important Spanish outpost in the Caribbean. Ponce de León, member of this second exhibition, founded San Juan de Puerto Rico, and in January of this year, 2022, our king, King Felipe VI, visited Puerto Rico to participate in the celebration of the 500th anniversary of the foundation of San Juan, which was an opportunity to witness the deep footprint of the Spanish legacy in the island. I would like to thank the National Christopher Columbus Association as organizers of this event for their efforts in preserving Christopher Columbus' legacy, together with the Embassy of Italy in the United States and so many Italian-American associations and foundations. Columbus should be honored for what he represents, a man whose vision changed the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Accompanying the ambassador this morning are Defense Attaché General Pedro Alejandro Sipols and Naval Attaché Captain Manuel Serrano. Thank you for being here. Pursuant to Title 36, Section 106 of the U.S. Code, and at the standing request of the Congress of the United States, President Joseph Biden has issued a proclamation declaring today Columbus Day. For a reading from that proclamation, I'm happy to welcome a member of the NCCA Board of Directors, Mr. Francesco Iskro, President of Casa Italiana Social Cultural Center. Francesco.
A proclamation on Columbus Day 2022. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed from the Spanish port of Palos de la Frontera on behalf of Queen Isabella I and King Ferdinand II, but his roots trace back to Genova, Italy. The story of his journey remains a source of pride for many Italian Americans, whose families also crossed the Atlantic. His voyage inspired many others to follow and ultimately contributed to the founding of America, which has been a beacon for immigrants across the world. Many of these immigrants were Italians, and for generations, Italian immigrants have harnessed the courage to leave so much behind, driven by their faith in the American dream, to build a new life of hope and possibility in the United States. Today, Italian Americans are leaders in the fields, all the fields, including government, health, business, innovation, and culture. Things have not always been easy. Prejudice and violence often stall the promise of equal opportunity. In fact, Columbus Day was created by President Harrison in 1892 in response to anti-Italian motivated lynching of 11 Italian Americans in New Orleans in 1891. During World War II, Italian Americans were even targeted as enemy aliens. But the hard work, dedication to community, and leadership of Italian Americans in every industry make our country stronger, more prosperous, and more vibrant. The Italian American community is also a cornerstone of our nation's close and enduring relationship with Italy, a vital NATO ally and European Union partner. Today, the partnership between Italy and the United States is at the heart of our efforts to tackle the most pressing global challenges of our times, including supporting Ukraine as it defends its freedom and democracy. In commemoration of Christopher Columbus' historic voyage 530 years ago, the Congress, by joint resolution of April 30, 1934, and modified 1968, has requested the President proclaim the second Monday of October of each year as Columbus Day. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim October 10, 2022 as Columbus Day. I direct that the flag of the United States be displayed on all public buildings on the appointed day in honor of our diverse history and all who have contributed to shaping this nation. In witness whereof, I have here to set my hands the 7th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2022, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 247th Joseph R. Biden, Jr. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iskro. At this point in our program each year, we are proud to recognize the winner of the National Youth Essay Contest. As in years past, we received many excellent entries from high school students across the country. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not express the deep appreciation of the NCCA to our partners at the National Italian American Foundation, who co-sponsor this contest and take the time to administer it with great success, at the direction of my NCCA board colleague, Ms. Julia Kennedy. NIAF provides the financial awards to the top 3 winners, that is $1,200, $500, and $300, as well as providing for the travel expenses for the first place winner to travel to Washington and be with us today. The theme for this year's contest was Christopher Columbus's expeditions served as a catalyst for cultural exchange on a global scale. How did Columbus's voyages shape Western civilization during his time? What examples of Columbus's contributions and the impact that it had on our society can we still see today? And I'm happy to announce that this year's winner is Mr. John Hill of the Woodlands, Texas. John submitted his essay while still a senior and has since graduated from the Seton Homeschool Study program, Seton Homeschool Study, and begun his undergraduate studies at Christendom College in Front Royal, Virginia, only about an hour and a half in good traffic from here. As a high school student, John was very involved in athletics. It seems like you played pretty much everything. So I'll note that in football, John was a first-team academic all-state athlete and a second-team all-state cornerback. And his team, the Tomball Christian Warriors, placed second in the National Homeschool Football Championship. He was also elected to Phi Theta Kappa and the National Homeschool Honor Society. John was also a regular volunteer in his community and active in his church, Regina Caeli Catholic Parish, where he was an altar server and volunteered for several camps. John is with us today, and he's joined by his parents here in the front row, Douglas and Linda, and his sister Laura. Congratulations to you as well. And John, congratulations on your accomplishment on a well-written and researched essay. And with us today to present the Essay Contest Award and offer some remarks, I'm pleased to welcome the Honorable Anita Bevacqua McBride, Vice Chair National of the National Italian American Foundation and a great friend to the NCCA. Ms. McBride.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you so much for mentioning my maiden name, which gives me such great pride as an Italian American to be part of this ceremony every single year. I want to extend my greetings, Ambassador Cabanas, Ambassador Zappia. So thrilled to join these distinguished guests every year to deliver some remarks on behalf of the National Italian American Foundation, of which I serve proudly on its board. And thank you, JP, also for everything that you do for the National Christopher Columbus Association. As I represent the Italian American Foundation at this annual commemoration of Christopher Columbus and his daring voyages that ultimately united 2 continents and opened our shores to more than 5 centuries of international exchange. As the nation's premier Italian-American organization, the National Italian-American Foundation steadfastly upholds Christopher Columbus as a prevailing symbol of the cultural heritage of over 25 million people claiming Italian ancestry. In our ancestors' shared pursuit of a better life, Columbus's example quickly became a source of dignity and self-worth in the face of widespread bigotry that so many Italian immigrants endured upon their arrival in America. They persevered, they thrived, and contributed significantly to their adopted country. And it is in their honor that we vehemently advocate for the continued recognition of Columbus Day and the factual depiction of his legacy. We are so thrilled and honored with this year's proclamation by President Biden that recognizes these 2 points perfectly. Columbus Day, however, is much more than the celebration of any one ethnicity's pride. Columbus Day transcends the boundaries of national origin and speaks more broadly to the promise of the American dream that encouraged so many immigrants from all walks of life and all corners of the globe to come here. They faced their own daring journey and tremendous uncertainty. Christopher Columbus's example is an undeniably significant catalyst to each of these individual acts of courage. The legacy of Columbus is also linked to the inherently American values of risk, innovation, and discovery. This day celebrates those qualities and all of the brave immigrants that uprooted their lives in search of opportunity, each helping to create the unique mixture of cultures that make up our diverse society and vast cultural mosaic. NIAF also proudly supports the celebration of Indigenous peoples, their rich cultures, and contributions to this nation and their place in world history as the first stewards of this land we call home. We stand with them in solidarity to honor their heritage and great sacrifice. History is multifaceted and full of complex figures and memorials to the past. That they represent just a brief snapshot of the human experience in a given point in time. Understandably, they are increasingly reflected upon through the lens of centuries of progress. NIAF believes there is ample opportunity and responsibility in a civil society to engage in sensible discourse regarding historical figures and their legacies. It may not always be comfortable, but let the guiding principle of this debate be the simple fact that it is not necessary to elevate one culture at the expense of another. In that spirit of forging constructive dialogue and factual analysis of Christopher Columbus's place in history, it has been NIAF's privilege to co-sponsor this high school student essay contest since 1996. We see it as a vehicle to facilitate young generations' open and honest dialogue about our past. So I want to congratulate you, John, on this year's winning essay. You have an impressive career already with all that you have accomplished. We applaud your interest to explore the legacy of Christopher Columbus. We are proud to support you and hope your example will inspire many others to do the same. Now I want to invite John to stand here and join me at the podium to receive a special presentation from the National Italian American Foundation. And happy Columbus Day to you all. Shall I read what it says? It says the National Italian American Foundation proudly presents John D. Hill, first place in the 2022 NIAF NCAA Christopher Columbus Essay Contest awarded on Monday, October 10th, 2022, in Washington, the District of Columbia. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Here, we'll do a picture. Right here, I'll put this here.
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. The memorable mnemonic device is proof of the long-lasting effect that Christopher Columbus impressed upon the world of the 15th century and today. Without the expeditions of Christopher Columbus, the whole world, and in particular the Americas, would have been quite different. It was only after Columbus's discoveries that a slew of explorers began to chase the setting sun across the ocean. As a result, Europeans were given the hopeful chance to immigrate to a new country in search of new freedom and better opportunities. Christopher Columbus initiated an age of expedition which, both in his day and in modern times, globally affected the transmission of culture and the shaping of Western civilization. Christopher Columbus, an Italian from Genoa, sought assistance for his grand voyage from European monarchs. Portugal rejected his idea, but with the end of the Spanish Reconquista, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain, inspired by Columbus's zeal, invested a grandiose amount of wealth and resources into his voyage. Columbus hoped to please his patrons with the discovery of a speedy trade route to India, knowing that such a route would bring about an even greater exchange between Europe and Asia, and the conversion of the indigenous peoples. The king and queen heartily believed in the mission of the courageous explorer, for Columbus was a man born and driven to discover a new world. And such a discovery was bound to bring transcendent glory, power, and wealth to whatever nation made it. At one time, trade was only possible by the Silk Road, the long journey by land from Europe to distant Asian lands. Portugal then established a shipping route by simply sailing around the southern tip of Africa. To surpass the Portuguese, Columbus had to do what no navigator ever dared to do before: to set off directly across a broad, unknown sea with no specific knowledge of how far it extended or what lay on the other side. Columbus revolutionized navigation by sailing into the unknown. He did not find Asia. Rather, Columbus made an entirely new discovery, the discovery of a new continent and the discovery of a new world. Columbus's 70-day journey across the Atlantic Ocean gave him evidence of a landmass between Europe and Asia. There, he made contact with the natives of the Bahamas, who were a kind people. The first meeting of the two cultures took place, and an informal and subtle exchange began as both noted the talents and manners of each other. Even when his crew tried to exploit the natives, Columbus piously forbade the unfair exchange of their riches for European trinkets. Rather, he hoped to trade with them justly. By creating a mutual trust, the natives then gave advice to help the great explorer discover Cuba and Hispaniola. Christopher Columbus and his European crew left a mark on these East Indies, as Columbus referred to them, which changed the way the natives lived forever, giving them the benefits of Christianity, of trade, and Western civilization, as no explorer had done before. While Columbus's physical discoveries may have been limited to the several islands on which he landed, it was, as one author stated, not only Hispaniola that Columbus's great discovery opened up, but everything from Point Barrow, Alaska, to Cape Horn, a new world. It brought rescue and liberation for the 15 million Indians of Mexico, and it offered new homelands for the peoples of Europe, including the United States of America, the country which rose up to put down some of the greatest evils of history, such as the German Nazis and the Soviet communists. Columbus himself even felt that his discovery would influence the destiny of nations. And so, with this first pivotal journey of the famed navigator completed, along with the success of his return voyage to recall the details of his adventure, the seeds of a global cultural revolution were sown, and Columbus's work paved the way for other explorations and the development of newly discovered lands and societies. With the groundwork laid for global change, scores of explorers, such as Amerigo Vespucci and Juan Ponce de Leon, followed the path of Columbus and explored more parts of the New World. Because of Christopher Columbus, these explorers embarked on their quests, meaning Columbus's relatively small but crucial discovery had the impetus to provide for a multitude of other geographical discoveries. By exploring the New World, European culture, most clearly materialized by language and religion, was transmitted to the Americas and is still detectable today. For example, Columbus and his Spanish crew explored some of Latin America, and even today, those countries still largely speak Spanish and practice Christianity. This link between the Old World and the New World of today proves that Columbus's initial discovery was a cultural catalyst of the most significant proportions. Unfortunately, many modern thinkers tend to de-emphasize the greatness of Christopher Columbus. However, by gathering more accurate information, such myths have been debunked, and Columbus's historical legacy rests on his navigational expertise, his undaunted courage, and his fervent saintliness. The admirable admiral gained the attention of Spain as a holy missionary, but won support from Spain due to his bold assurance of discovery. Correspondingly, Columbus wrote that the King and Queen of Spain resolved to send him with a view that the Indians might be converted to Spain's holy faith, and that he should go by way of the West, whither up to his day men did not know for certain that anyone had gone. The qualities comprising this monumental seafarer destined him to help quite literally shape the globe. Nevertheless, an all too large number of historians tend to discredit any discoveries Columbus supposedly made and transfer the credit to those Vikings and islanders who reached a part of the Americas years before Columbus was born. As for the Vikings, Europeans of Columbus's time held that Vinland, or the Viking settlement on Greenland, existed only in myths. While Columbus's brave new journey gave Europe tangible information confirming the westward land, only his expeditions opened the door for the spread of Western civilization. Moreover, discovery is made when an individual or a nation finds something, or someone, or some people or some places of special importance, not previously known to them. It is clear then that Columbus was truly the discoverer of the Americas, because people were uncertain of any land actually existing across the Atlantic Ocean before Columbus's adventures. Consequently, the discoverer of the New World ought to be praised and remembered by generations after him for his illustrious feats in spite of nearly impossible odds. It is with this praise in mind that all Italians, all Europeans, all Americans, and all people should look to Christopher Columbus as a legendary figure, remembering that his great accomplishments revolutionized the old world and opened up a great new world. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Anita. Finally, I'm happy to call back to the podium Mr. James McCusker, President of the National Christopher Columbus Association, to present NCCA's award to James. JP.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll agree that with representatives like this for our youth, our future is very bright for all of us. Congratulations on an extraordinary composition. And thank you very much. I'd like for you to make a presentation to you as well. And this is a certificate of honorary member of the National Christopher Columbus Association. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And I have a pin here too. And this is a presentation of the David R. Kirkland Award for the essay contest. Named after David Kirkland, a renowned surgeon here in the Washington area. And his wife Blanche is here today to say hello to you. And parents, you can stand up and take pictures. Here we go. So very proud parents. So, and welcome to you. Scoot over a little bit. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Come on over, Mom. Thank you. Certainly. Please. The pin I was looking for.
Thank you all. The 2022-2023 essay contest topic references this great Columbian exchange and is, when reflecting on Columbus's legacy, we tend to think about his impact in America. What were the effects of the discovery of America on Italy? How did Columbus's voyages serve as the starting point for Italian-American relations? The full prompt and all the details can be found in your program book on page 9. Please share with your networks, your friends, and we look forward to another great presentation next year. Thank you again, John. We are now at the point in our program where we will have the presentations of wreaths by our various supporting organizations. If you are a wreath presenter, please at this time make your way to the area here on my left, your right, to be set up for your wreath. In 1893, Catherine Bates traveled west by train to Colorado Springs to teach at Colorado College. On that journey, she attended the Columbian Exposition in Chicago, celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus's landfall in the New World. Later, while visiting Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs, the view and her experiences that she had while traveling west inspired her to write a poem, which we now know as the lyrics to the great patriotic hymn, America the Beautiful. We welcome back the Marine Corps Quintet, who will play America the Beautiful as our wreaths are brought forward. The National Christopher Columbus Association, presented by board member Julius Jackson. The National Park Service, U.S. Department of Interior, presented by Ranger Eric Kim. The Embassy of Spain, presented by His Excellency, the Ambassador Santiago Cabanas, and Defense Attaché General Pedro Cipos. The Embassy of Italy, presented by the Ambassador, Her Excellency Mariangela Zappia, Defense Major General Mauricio Cantaniello, and Lieutenant Gianluca Benchini. The National Italian-American Foundation, presented by the Honorable Anita Bevacqua McBride, Vice Chair National, and Julia Kennedy, Director of Scholarships and NCCA Board Member. The Supreme Council of the Knights of Columbus, presented by Steve Kehoe, member of the Board of Directors and NCCA board member. the Lido Civic Club of Washington, D.C., presented by Richard DePippo, President, and Francesco Iskro, past President. National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, presented by Martha Hilton, past Vice President General and 15-year board member and NCCA board member. District of Columbia State Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, presented by Elizabeth Hicks, State Regent. El Centro Español de Washington, D.C., presented by Nibio Sousa, Vice President. District of Columbia State Council, Knights of Columbus, presented by Chris Pierno, State Deputy and Vice President of the NCCA, and Lee N. Wynn, State Secretary. Maryland State Council, Knights of Columbus, presented by Chris Powers, State Deputy, and Tony Salvamini, State Secretary. Virginia State Council, Knights of Columbus, presented by Pat Rowland, State Deputy. Washington Council 224, Knights of Columbus, presented by Drew Gorman, past Grand Knight. National Society, Daughters of the American Colonists, presented by Melanie Platt, National President. Italian Heritage Lodge of Fairfax, 2517, Orders of the Sons and Daughters of Italy and America, presented by Don Falcinati, President, and Charles Romano, Vice President. National Council for the Promotion of Italian Language and Culture in the United States, presented by Dr. Daniel Stabile, President, and Anthony Lenzini, President, Bishop O'Connell High School Italian American Club, Luca Marigio, Vice President, Bishop O'Connell High School Italian American Club, and Greg Bersey, Secretary, Bishop O'Connell High School Italian American Club. And finally, the Abruzzo and Molise Heritage Society of the Washington, D.C. area, presented by Joseph Scafetta, Jr., member of the Board of Directors and NCCA board member, and Joseph Scafetta III, a member. Thank you to all of the organizations here, and we have a round of applause who helped us mark this with a special day. On behalf of the National Christopher Columbus Association, I wish to express our heartfelt appreciation to the presence of the U.S. Marine Corps Quintet today, which added a patriotic solemnity to our proceedings. Additionally, thank you to the Knights of Columbus, 4th degree, including the Honor America Corps, for their services. And thank you to all of you for joining us today, and for those from the Diplomatic Corps, NIAF, the NCCA, the National Park Service, and our partners in law enforcement, who made today a safe, patriotic, and celebratory success. Thank you all. And as we close, I'd ask that you please rise for a performance of God Bless America by our Marine Corps Quintet. Let us never forget the great contribution that Columbus, the navigator and explorer, gave to our world. We look forward to seeing you here again next year on Columbus Day. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.